Hello, Michael Moss here on this Saturday, January 26, 2019. And we have a lot to discuss. But I'm going to try to make it as concise here as possible so we don't waste too much time. If you're listening this evening, some of you are getting some snow, maybe some accumulating snow. Here's the radar loop I pulled up a little while ago, about a half hour ago, so this has changed a little bit. We have snows moving through the area with this latest in a series of Alberta clippers that are coming through the area. And of course, an Alberta clipper is a fast-moving little compact snowstorm that develops first in the Canadian province of, you guessed it, Alberta. And they move very quickly south-southeast, usually toward the upper Midwest into the Great Lakes and the Ohio, sometimes even the Tennessee Valley areas. And they are accompanied by a quick shot of snow, sometimes accumulating. And like I said, some areas probably will get a 1 to 3 inch burst from this particular clipper. And they're also accompanied by gusty winds and colder temps. And today, temps actually warmed up a bit ahead of this feature. We actually had another one move through earlier today. That's done gone. Now this one's coming through, and it'll bring more of that biting wind chill and cold temps all the way through to tomorrow. But that's only a taste. Here's what's coming. These are projected low temperatures on Wednesday morning. Actual low temperatures. Now, why I always say you want to, sometimes these can be a little aggressive, particularly when we're dealing with these bitterly cold Arctic air masses. So some of these might be a bit too low. Now, we'll be able to fine-tune these in coming days here. But there's no doubt what's coming. We have some bitterly cold temperatures, some of the coldest air we've seen in quite a while. And in particular, as we get this Alberta clipper coming in on Monday, it's not out of the question there could be some more accumulating snow then. Now, there'll be some rain ahead of it. It'll be windy. Front will go through during the day on Monday. Temps will fall, and some snow will be on the backside of this. Accumulations, not totally sure at this point in time, but very gusty northwest winds and much colder temperatures will be coming as not just a piece of the polar vortex, but the polar vortex comes down on us. Here's some of the wind chill depictions, and I tell you, if any of these are even close to being exactly what these are some dangerously cold wind chills. I mean, brutally cold. Here's some actual air temperatures as we go into Wednesday morning. Look at these. Now, for reference, you see those negative 36s there in southeastern portions of Minnesota. If those were to verify, I think there's a possibility they might. Those would equal Indiana's all-time record low temperature. Now, of course, this is in Minnesota, so it doesn't matter as much. But Indiana's coldest temperature of all time, I think it was January 19th, 1994 it happened. I always forget the date right off the top of my head. But I don't forget the location because it was in New Whiteland, Indiana, about a block away from where I live at right now. Temperature reached negative 36 degrees and still to this day holds the all-time record low for the state of Indiana. I don't think that will be broken. But to give you an idea, we're dealing with some really brutally cold, and these are some of the projected wind chills. Like I said, if any of these come close to verifying, this is dangerous cold. This is cold that you cannot have exposed skin to the air at all, unless you want to be basically instantly frostbitten. Just dangerously cold. Some vehicles won't start. Hopefully, the electric grids will be okay for that type of thing. But what's coming through it on Monday is no joke, and it's about. I've seen. I forgot to put the graphic on here, but it's about. It's another clipper that some model depictions want to put at 988 millibar, which would be a pretty stout little clipper, in terms of winds. You could easily see wind gusts of over 30 to 40 miles an hour, that type of pressure gradient. And then it doesn't end. Later in the week, we start to moderate a little bit, only for this little clipper to come through late in the week, and there's another high behind it. Not as strong as this one that's going to be coming through, but it'll kind of help to reinforce the cold air. And if that weren't enough, early into the week after next, there's another storm system coming in with some cold air behind it. However, as I've gotten to look at the temperature anomalies as we get kind of into that second week of February, and again, this is not set in stone, we're starting to see a milder trend come onto the scene here. And this is different ensemble sports, Canadian, European, GFS ensembles right here. Keeping it, a little bit milder, or maybe even near a little bit closer to average, which by that time, our average highs will be getting into the upper 30s, and lows will be in the low 20s. So night beach weather by any stretch of the imagination, but definitely different from lows potentially as low as 10 to 15 degrees below zero. Going to be quite a change. Now, I show this map right here to kind of give a gauge on the connection between what goes on the other side of the world and how it affects the weather over in this part of the world. And so I look at this analysis of what we call the Madden-Julian oscillation, and right now it's in what we call a phase 6, heading toward a phase 7. Now this time of the year, this is what typically results of that. It's somewhat milder, maybe a little bit above average or a little bit closer to average type temperatures. As I said, we're in phase 6, but we're heading towards 7, according to the latest analysis. So not quite as warm, probably a little closer to average, but it's not all about the MJO. We also look at other teleconnections. The Arctic oscillation is still in the tank. This is when you have it below this line right there. That's a negative Arctic oscillation index, and the trend is for it to stay low, which would mean that we have basically drainage of air from the Arctic. Hence why not just a piece of the polar vortex is coming, the whole polar vortex is coming down. And it's really impressive to look at. Now, something else I wanted to show you as well, the other one that we look at is an Eastern Pacific oscillation. And this is where we have a big ridge of high pressure from the central and eastern portions of the Pacific Ocean that goes all the way up until Alaska, and they have some very warm, mild conditions in Alaska. You couple that, like I said, with a negative Arctic oscillation, and you got a recipe and a block to allow cold air to continuously drain down and be drained. And you can actually see it on this map right here. This is the Arctic air that's coming. There's the ridge right there. The going up. There's a little storm there in the Pacific, but it's not much. But you could see much warmer than average, much higher heights coming from a Pacific origin over Alaska into the western Canada, instead of more from a northern or Arctic. But here, there's the Arctic right there. There's where it gets dislodged right there, with the teleconnections are in place, and the number on that is just mind blowing. We measure these in decameters, and generally, when you're at 542 and lower, you're generally dealing with temperatures that kind of correspond to surface temperatures at around freezing. Not precisely, but it's kind of a good thing to go by. But this thing gets all the way. Now, I don't know if you can see the number there, 489. That is brutally low pressure air. It's very dense air. Dense air gets very, very cold. When it gets, the denser it gets. And like I said, we usually see just like little pieces of this come off. If you look at the beginning of the loop, you'll actually see a piece of it right there as it moves on. That's actually a piece of the polar vortex that's got broken up. Look at this. This is the entire vortex coming down. So while I think some of the temperature guidance has maybe a little overdone, it's not out of the question that some of it could potentially be fairly accurate. And Something else I want to also show you as well. Right there toward the end, see those areas of where the red increases. That's where we say the heights increase. Well, one of the areas there it's approaching is Greenland. So we got kind of another block developing there to the east and to the northeast, along with this block out here. And the cold air's got nowhere to go but south. It's getting drained directly south as we have blocks on both coasts. So like I said, we are going to see this bitterly cold air mass come over us. It is going to happen. We may get a slight moderation later this week, but then a couple more systems are going to come through and kind of reinforce it. And I think maybe, if we're lucky there in that second week of February or so, we might get a break from this and get to a little more seasonal temperatures. But not before, potentially, more cold air comes down. For all of you been wanting to know where winter's at, it's here, y'all. I'm signing off for now. We'll have more available. I'll have more for you as it becomes available. And, of course, stay tuned on my social media for non-video updates with images and updates of that nature. I am Michael Wade Moss on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram.